Today is February 22nd, 2022, and here are 22 tips to make you a more efficient Excel user. Here's a simple navigational tool for you in Excel. If you tab, it'll move your cell to the right. Shift tab, you go to the left. The benefit of tabbing over is that once you're at the end and you hit enter, you go back to where you started from. If you want to move down, you hit enter, move back up, shift and enter. And that's a quick and easy way to move around Excel without using your arrow keys. Another navigational tip here, if you're clicking on a lot of buttons in Excel, like the filter button, you got to go to the right tab and select it. But you can also right click on it and add it to a quick access toolbar, which you'll see pops up below now. And you can do this for any sort of buttons that you frequently access, like the refresh all. I can go to the home tab, right click on the bold button, add it to there. And so now, regardless of where you are, it's still on there. I can go add a button for the comment, and you can see regardless of where I am in Excel, I have access to those buttons. I can filter, I can add comments quickly and easily from that quick access toolbar. So a really useful navigational shortcut. There are a lot of ways to copy and paste in Excel. In this example, I'm going to show you how you can use Control and Drag. So you want to select the edge of your selection, hold Control and drag it over. It'll copy it over. If you don't want to use the mouse at all, highlight everything. Again, grab that corner and right click and drag. And now when you release it, you'll have the option here to do a number of things. Copy as values only, as formats. And you can just select copy here, which will paste it in for you as if you were doing a simple copy and paste, and you can see the formulas remain intact as well. In this example, I want the month and dates for each month of the year. And if I just drag this down, Excel is going to increment by 1 day, which is not what I want. It's going to give me the days following January 31st. Now, if I type in February 28th and I still do this, it still doesn't work. So what I can do is help Excel along the way by selecting both these values and then dragging this formula down. And now it'll figure out what my pattern is. By giving Excel more information and then doing this, then it works properly. Another thing I can do is right click and drag down, and now it'll give me an option to hit series, and I can specify that I want to jump by 1 month at a time. And so now this works the same way. So this is specific for dates, but just an example of how you can help Excel fill in your series correctly. If you want to quickly tally up a certain column to see how much the total sales was, what you can do is right click on your status bar here, and you've got options for sum, max, min, count, and average, so that way you can see those values on anything you highlight. If I want to see the total quantity, select that column, and now I have those values in there. So that saves you having to do any sort of calculations to do that. If you're working on a big file, what you may want to do is add another window, especially if you've got multiple monitors. Go into the View tab, hit New Window, and now you'll have a second instance of that same file. So even though you're still working on one file, you can be looking at it in 2 different places at the same time, 2 different sheets. No problem. You can navigate around, make any changes, and they'll reflect in both. So you're still working on the same file, and even if I make a change here, it's reflected on this window to the left here. Here I'm going to show you how you can enter data across multiple tabs. So what I'm going to do is copy this sample database sheet multiple times. So just right click, copy, create a copy, move it to the end, and then create another copy from there. And now what I can do is, let's say I want to change how these tabs look. I can select all of them using the Shift key. And now at the very top, let's say I want to change the header. So I'm going to select that, highlight it yellow, select the font color of black, change the row height to 30, hit OK. Do the alignment, and now if I deselect it and go back to each one of these tabs individually, you can see that formatting has applied, even though I only made that change once. Because I had all the tabs selected, it's in there. I can also do this with a formula. So if I want to select an average and just do a simple calculation, it's going to be present in each one of these sheets, even though I only added it once. You can see it's still referencing column G. It's not referencing any other sheets. And this value is the same because I just copied these sheets, but theoretically it could calculate differently. And so you can select different sheets just by selecting the control key, or you can use shift to select multiple at once. One really cool feature in Excel is Sparklines. They can create an easy visual for you without having to insert any charts. So here I've got sales data, and if I want to chart that, I can go to insert. Under Sparklines, there's an option for line. So I'm going to select my location range where I want to plot that, hit enter, and then hit OK. And now you can see I've got a nice visual there. I can expand this down for multiple rows. And if I wanted to, I can also change the look of it, use a column. And so that's a really easy way to plot a chart without having to go to insert a chart. Here's another chart tip that's not really a chart. I'm going to plot this sales data as a bar chart. And an easy way to do that is using the REPT function. This repeats text a given number of times. And so I'm going to select the value, the text that I want to repeat, which is a straight line. This one shows just above the enter key. And the number of times I want to repeat it is that value for the sales volume. Now the problem is this is way too many instances of this. So I'm going to divide this by a factor of 10. And now it's a bit smaller. And I'm going to change the font. And the font that I find works well for this is Britannic Bold. And now once I copy this down, it looks like all solid colors. I can change the colors as well. But as you can see, it's a really easy way to create some bar charts. If you're dealing with two different data series, one that's really large like sales and a small one like average price, on a chart, what you may want to do is use a combo chart and utilize a secondary axis. So sales I can use as a column chart, price as a line chart, and plot one of these on a secondary axis. Now when I hit OK, they're not all on the same scale, so it's a lot easier to see them. They're not all scrunched together. I can also format the data series if I decide later I want to swap between these axes. There's a primary and a secondary axis to choose from, so you can change this after the fact as well. In this example, I'm going to show you how you convert these month numbers into month names. So an easy way to do that is by multiplying them by a factor of 28. So I'm just going to take these values, multiply them by that, freeze that cell, and then copy this all the way down. And this basically is the day number of the year. And if I use the text function, I can convert this into a month. So Excel is going to know based on the day of the year, roughly what month it corresponds to. If I copy this all the way down, it gets me down to December. So I've got all the months names there, even though I've only used the numbers. And you can use this with 29, which also seems to work. 30 occasionally may work, but anything over 30 and over, or 27 and lower, and you could find yourself in situations where it doesn't work perfectly. So 28 or 29 is your best bet to do these conversions. One useful feature in Excel is setting up named ranges. So right here, I'm referencing a cell value to reflect the price increase. It's referencing J1, but what I can do is change this and assign a name, call it price increase. And now what I can do is update my formula. So instead of referencing J1, they can just reference that name, price increase. So it's a lot easier if you're making changes to your formula to know exactly what that cell is, as opposed to trying to figure out what J1 is. So now the formula still works, stays intact, and there's no confusion as to what that is. You can manage the named ranges through the name manager. You can change the name, you can change what it refers to, but an easy way, as I showed you, you can just change it right in the cell address. And you can also delete it if you no longer need it. Here I'm going to show you how you can make text look or values look invisible. So right now I've got a huge data set. Let's say I want to hide this one. I can format cells, and under custom, I'm just going to use 3 semicolons as the type. Now it shows up as blank regardless of the background color. This is beneficial if you're using a huge data set like this and you don't want to be looking at every single number. I can go to conditional formatting, create a new rule, use a formula, and say anything less than 50%, so B3 in this case, less than and equal to, or less than 0.5, I can apply a custom format to this and go under that number format under custom, set it to those 3 semicolons, and now anything less than 50% is going to disappear. Even though the values are still there, they are hidden and show up as being blank. In this example, I've got an invoice and I want to put multiple lines of comments in here. Now I could use wrap text, which is automatically going to wrap it to force it to fit within that cell's width. But if I actually want to create a separate line, I can use Alt and Enter. And that's going to actually push it onto another line, regardless of how wide the cell is. And so now you can see as I'm scrolling, I can center all this vertically and it all is in one cell. If I wanted to, I could press the down arrow here and now I can see exactly how my text is structured. Alt Enter pushes me to another line, so I can create yet a third line as well, and it'll automatically expand for me. Here I've got a mortgage calculator with monthly payments, a house price, a down payment, an actual interest rate, turbine years, and it spits out an estimated monthly payment. Now, let's say I wanted to know, at what percentage point would I get to a monthly payment of less than or exactly $2,000? I can do trial and error here, but with Excel, there's an option called Goal Seek. Under the Data tab, there's a What If analysis and a Goal Seek section. And so I can select the cell that I want to change. So in that case, I want my monthly payment set to a value of 2,000, but the cell that I want to change is only that interest rate. So I'm selecting that. I'm going to hit OK, and now Excel is going to do these calculations for me. So in this example, it's really simple, but if you've got a really complex what if analysis or trial and error you want to do, Excel can help you do that using the Goal Seek function. If I want to grab the largest value in this column, an easy way to do so is just by using the max function. So to do this, I'm just going to select this entire range, and it gives me the largest value. Another way to do this is using the large function. So what I can do is select the value, and now I've got a K value. I can select the 1 indicating the largest value. I can do a 2 for the largest, but I can also use the row function. And the row function, in this case, I'm going to use A1 to return the value of that row number. And I use A1 because that's the first number. If I pull this formula down, now A2 is going to relate to a value of 2, because the reason is A2 is the second row. So the benefit of using the row function is I can easily increment this formula down. So you can see row A8, row A10, it's automatically going to update based on this. So this will give me the 22nd largest value. I can continue on, and it's an easy way to do so without manually entering those numbers myself. In this example, I'm going to calculate cumulative values for this list. So an easy way to do so is using the sum function, and here I'm going to go F2 to F2. That's my cumulative because I've only got one value. But the problem is if I just were to copy this down to the next one, it's going to go F3 to F3. So what I need to do is freeze that first value of F2. Now when I do that and I copy my formula down, it's automatically going to start from there, and it's only going to expand as I pull my formula down. So now I can drag this down, and it's going to give me that cumulative effect. You can see it's still starting from that same cell, but expanding only to where that formula is. Now you'll notice these green arrows saying that it's an inconsistent formula, and that's fine. You can select that box and select ignore error, but that's how you can calculate a cumulative sum easily in Excel. If you want to pull a unique list of values from, let's say, all the different products on this list, there are a number of ways you can do so. So the first way is if you've got a latest version of Excel, you can use the unique function. Just select everything that you want to pull a unique list of, and it includes everything, including zero values as well. Another way you can do this is copying this list over, and on the Data tab, there's an option to remove duplicates. If I click on that, it's going to actually remove those values. Another way, the old school way I like to call it, is I just need to copy the header and click on this data set, and still in the data section, I'm going to hit the advanced filter button. And so I'm going to select the option to copy to another location, the copy to section. I'm just going to select that header, hit OK. Check off that option for unique records only, hit OK. And again, it's going to populate a unique list of values from that column. One common problem when you're dealing with pivot tables in Excel is, when you change your data source, you're normally applying a set range. And so the problem is if I go to the end here and add another row of data, it's not going to automatically reflect my table. If I go back to change data source, it's still only going to row 1000. Now I could use a table in this example to automatically adjust, but there's another way you can address this issue, and that's by creating a named range using the offset function. So I'm just going to call this database, use the offset function, and what that's going to allow me to do is select my starting point for the data set, put 0 and 0 for offsetting rows and columns, and I'm going to count the number of values in column A, so I know exactly how far down it needs to go. And for the second argument, the width of the table, I'm going to count the number of columns, which is 7, hit OK. And now I've got a named range that captures that entire data set and will automatically expand as I add to it. So what I can do is go back to change data source, in this case, use that named range database, hit OK. And now what I'm going to do is go back to my data set, go to the very bottom, add another row. Again, same sort of values as before. And then go back into my pivot table, refresh. It's not really evident here, but if I go to change data source again, you'll see that now it's referencing a database, a named range, which automatically has expanded because of that offset function. In this sheet, I've got companies listed by their sales, and I've got a summary here that's doing a sum if calculation based on the sales column and the company name. You'll notice Walmart looks incorrect, and the reason is it's misspelled. I purposely have some errors in here, some missing values, and so the sum if function needs some help here. And so what I'm going to do is use a wildcard. So I'm going to use just WALM and add an asterisk within there, and now you can see now it's picking up those incorrectly spelled values because it's picking up anything that starts with WALM. Another way, instead of hard coding this, is what I could do is just reference the value in this cell, use an ampersand, and attach that asterisk. The one thing I would need to do is adjust this description, however. And now you can see now my sum if calculation works because I've got that wildcard character in there. In this tip, I'm going to show you how you can prevent the issue of making a data entry error. And that's by using data validation. So here I can create a named range for all these companies, just calling it companies. And I can select the range that I want the user to enter values. And under the data tab, hit the data validation button. And I'm going to select a list here. And for the source, I'm just going to type in that named range of companies. Hit OK. And now you can only select one of these values. So I can't just mistype something or make an error. It's going to give me that error message. So what I actually have to do is select one of these values. So that prevents that issue coming up where I've misspelled Walmart or any other value that I'm looking for in my sum if calculation. And so now I've got the correct value. I don't have to use a wildcard for these. I can use a simple sum if again. Here's a more advanced tip for data validation. Here I've got a list of all the companies, but I'm going to group these up. So I'm going to create group 1 and group 2, and I'm going to group the first 5 companies listed here into group 1, select the next 5, put them into group 2. And what I'm going to do now is insert another column for these groups, so that the idea being the user is going to first select one of these groups, and then based on those selections, they're going to only be able to pick from companies that relate in that group. So you've got these dependent drop downs. So I'm creating a named range for each of these groups, group 1 and group 2. And now I'm going to create drop down just for these groups, go to data validation, and I'm just going to use a simple list. This time I'm going to list the actual options, group 1, group 2. It's important that these match up to those named ranges that I just created. So as you can see, I can select either group 1 or group 2. And now what I'm going to do is update the data validation for this company. Instead of companies, I'm going to use the indirect function. And I'm going to select cell A2. So it's going to look at the value that I've selected in A2, which is going to point to one of those named ranges. So right now it evaluates to an error, but once I make a selection, it won't. So I select group 1, and now here I only see the companies listed in group 1. If I select group 2, it's only going to show me the values of the companies related to group 2. And so the benefit of this is now the user has fewer options to choose from, either group 2 or group 1, based on that selection. And the key that makes this work is that indirect function, because it's looking at that value in A2, and then it's pointing me to that named range, either group 2 or group 1. So this is how you create dependent drop-downs in Excel. All right, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching. 22 tips in less than 22 minutes. I know some of them were a bit, maybe a bit rushed. I was trying to not make this a super long video and try to be as succinct and to the point as I could be. If you liked it, please subscribe, like, and maybe even leave a comment what your favorite tips were. Other than that, thanks for watching.